Easter Bunny to everybody and belated Passover. If you're here for the first time today, I would like to welcome you hugely. This is the most wonderful center on the entire planet. Yes, yes, it's so self-serving when I do that, but I also know that it's true. So, if you are here for the first time, my name is Maureen Hoyt. I am the spiritual director of this wonderful center, and I am honored to be here today to celebrate Easter with all of you. Please turn and greet someone with a hug or a handshake and make a new friend. We do have wonderful fellowship downstairs afterwards where you can meet and greet one another. Our call to service is called Lighting the Flames of Faith, and we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from that one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. As Reverend Michael lights the first candle, it is for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. The second candle we light for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. The third candle we light for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. The fourth candle we light for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. The fifth candle we light for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. The sixth candle we light for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. The seventh candle we light for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. The ninth candle we light for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. We light the 10th candle for all those who are yet unaware of the power and presence of spirit in their lives, and for the space that we are holding for them at this center, and for all those religions unnamed in this ceremony. And as Reverend Michael lights the healing candle, please put silently into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experience the healing flame of God's eternal love. And so this morning, there's a bit of a bittersweetness to Easter this year. It is reminiscent, I think, of Reverend Michael's first Sunday ever coming to the Religious Science Center when I think it was over on Townsgate at the time. And here it is, his last Sunday to be on the platform here as he makes his way to a new adventure. Reverend Michael has been in service to the center in a really significant way over the years, and we so appreciate everything that he's ever done. And toward the end of the service today, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. But for the present moment, would you please give a very warm welcome today to Reverend Michael DeFebo.
You know, as a kid, I was called Pissy Eyes. I'm just letting you know that. So, as we do at all things at our center and all centers throughout the universe, we begin with an affirmative prayer, a spiritual mind treatment, an affirmation, whatever you call it, but we now call upon Spirit and create this invocation of what we are all about this very moment. So if you care to join me, I will speak in the first person. Use these words for yourself if you care to, and take them off with you. So as I go within, as I close my eyes just for a moment, blessings beyond blessings to each and every one. And it's in this awareness, in this very now, the energy, the spirit, the love, joy, community, God. Whatever I call it, I call upon it. And I am that I am with that one. For the Father and I reside as one. And so it's in that knowing, it's in that very now moment that I accept, I am aware, I am awakened to the magnificence of the power and the glory of the God within each and every one. And so I declare this good, oh so very good. I declare this a celebration. I declare this Easter and every day a rise in the Christ consciousness of each and every one of us. And so it's in that knowing, it's in that recognition, it's in that acceptance. My gratitude overflows, overwhelmingly overflows with the love of the one. And it's in that knowing, and it's in that recognition, I affirm, I declare, law has taken it, said, yes, Michael, yes, and oh so much more, because it can be no other. And so in affirmation, in the group consciousness, we declare together, and so it is, amen. So, how we this fine Easter, yes, very good, and good Pesach to us all too. I love it. One of the things that Dr. Maureen asked, what could she do for me, is it was my wish to preside on Easter Sunday for the significance of this day of Easter. And the interpretation of this day, it's unbelievable. In our teaching, I don't think there's another week that has such rich interpretation of the story of Easter. Who here among us does not know the story of Easter? See? Over 2,000 years ago, something happened, and we all know the story of Easter. And I don't care what you are, where you come from, who you are, what your belief is, it doesn't matter. Because what we're led to believe, and those that were in my class, we talk about this all the time. What you used to think is called a old belief pattern, right? Yes? Old belief pattern, which no longer serves. So, if any of us have a problem with Jesus, what I'd like you to do the next time you hear Jesus is to think about that and say, am I carrying any old belief system or any belief pattern of the past with me into the new thought of Jesus, the man? Jesus, as Ernest, our founder, who was probably most heavily influenced with Jesus and Emerson than anybody else, interpreted his words, his message, and his meaning. And before I go any further, a couple of shout-outs, because I know we are live, and I love live streaming because it is our creative process in form. Shout-out to Cindy Lou and Antelope Valley. Shout-out to Christopher and Kim having breakfast in bed on Easter Sunday. Shout-out to each and every one of you out there hearing this, and that is the creative process. Think about it. We are no longer in an area where it's just here. We are sending out vibrations, energy, love to anyone who just taps in to this thing called the website. Is that beautiful or what? And Jesus said, of the miracles, you will do these and so much more. Imagine what Jesus would say today if he saw that technology. He'd say, you're still talking about me? Holy moly, folks. Get over it. So we talk about that in Palm Sunday, it was the beginning of the end on Palm Sunday. So today, Dr. Maureen, it is the end of the beginning of the end. You with me on that? Palm Sunday was the beginning of the end. Today is the end of the beginning of the end. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful. Now, each and every one of you were handed a special tulip from me to you. And the significance of that is also in our beliefs and in our teachings. In that, I want you to take that flower. Maureen, I'm going over a little bit. Is that all right? That's okay. What are you going to do? Fire me? So, the flower. Each of you take a look at this, at your flower. Gaze upon it in what it is as a representation of nature, of God, of spirit. And think of this now in our teaching of the individuality of the creation of this flower. Each one is separate unto itself, yet each one represents the beauty of what it is. And that beauty and that representation of this beautiful flower is the same that's in you and me. And if I really wanted to get her upset, we'd do the rite of spring. And what I want you to visualize, we're not going to do it because of the time. What I'd like you to visualize is now that we've all had this recognition of this beauty as individualized expressions of this beauty, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, imagine now putting them all together collectively as form, as one. And that is what we are here at Westlake, and every center, and every place of worship. That's what we are. Think of the millions and millions of people today bringing their individualized expression of beauty collectively together as one. And then I say, with that, what else do we need? And so can you imagine if we all came and just put this beautiful bouquet? Well, that's how the creative process works. That is the creative process. Dr. Ernest Holmes talks about that we're each the grain of the sand, but not the whole. The drop of the water, but not all of the ocean. We are each the flower of the beauty and the nature of the one. I also distributed you seeds. I'm not going to say it, but there's a joke about it, but I won't say it. We, at the same time with our beloved Reverend Linda Rojo. Linda, if you're watching, that's a declaration. We have put together these packets of wildflowers. I distributed them to Antelope Valley last week on Palm Sunday to every member. We have them at Yuma right now. And now you've each received this packet of seeds. And on the packet, it says, all the flowers of the future are in the seeds of today. Now, there are wildflowers in these envelopes. And what I'd like you to do, if you could, the instructions are you put it a 1/4 inch on any ground. We threw some out in the backyard. They're already starting to sprout. And you don't know what's going to come out. But imagine now, throughout the land, all these centers, every packet of these are going to be growing. When you start to see them, what I ask, Facebook it. Facebook it. To me, that's what Facebook is all about. Let's see the flowers on Facebook and know that you are part of the future. What we do here right this very moment is rippling into what we will be at tomorrow. And so it has been an honor, a privilege, if you could see through my eyes where I'm with you, honey. That's my baby. I'm with you. And each and every one of you, we talk about standing on shoulders. Well, my friends and my family here at Westlake, I stood on your shoulders for 16 years. I am that I am because of this center. And if you could see through my eyes, you too would know that you are capable of this and so much more. In the words of that master teacher, Jesus, I love you, I appreciate you, I carry with you always in my heart. And no matter where I go, no matter where I roam, I will always make sure I get my ass back home. Thank you.
Okay, happy Easter, everyone. I've been asked to introduce our musical inspiration for this morning, and it is somebody I've been hanging out with pretty much daily for the last decade. This is someone who keeps raising my bar for me before I'm ready to actually raise it myself. So sets heights for me when I'm just not sure. And so please give a very warm welcome to Reverend Michael DeFebo as our musical inspiration.
Let's hope I make it. Which into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. I get paid time and a half for doing both. Okay, so let's rise for our affirmation. And it's like I always say, says it like he means it. I place my affairs in the hands of goodness, love, and wisdom. And our song today, we have another special, our very own Sherry Deeds.
Hi, how are you? Happy Easter, everybody. I thought I'd come up and sing, I guess, my signature song. There we go. There was a time in my life I thought I had to do it all for myself. I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient, and I didn't know the love of God, well, it was at hand. But now I can say, when you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you've got to let it go. Let it all go. And this is what you have to, oh, you have to say. I release, I let go, I let the Spirit run my life. There you go. And my heart is open wide. I'm only for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit, you know struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see a light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only for God.
So I haven't seen some of you in a while. We used to have a religious science minister who would always wish everybody Merry Christmas on Easter Sunday. Because, because. To all the people who are out there on the live stream this morning, I want to say welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Westlake Village. Friday night, I was privileged to be able to participate in a performance of Jesus Christ Superstar with James Mellon at the Global Truth Center in North Hollywood. Don't worry, I didn't sing. I can see my children in the back already going, oh my God. No, they sang, and it was just the most wonderful, wonderful evening. James does magic with the people that he has at his center, who are the performers who show up, and they all do this on a volunteer basis, so it's just really wonderful. Reverend James is a former Broadway actor who received a Tony for a part he played in West Side Story years ago, and he continues to act and direct and produce as a part of his religious science ministry in North Hollywood. The Andrew Lloyd Webber play is modern in its interpretation of the period between Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday and the story that it entails. And, so many of us, in fact, I rode to North Hollywood with the DeFibos in the car, and Barbara DeFibo was singing all the lyrics for me, so I could have a sort of a lead-in to, I have an album of Jesus Christ Superstar buried away somewhere, but I don't have any way to play a vinyl album. So, yes, I know. Although I heard, though, that they are making record players for those of us who do have, I digress. Okay, never mind. Well, Easter, also known as Resurrection Sunday, celebrates the resurrection of Jesus, and Christians believe that Jesus was crucified on Good Friday and rose from the dead after 3 days on Easter Sunday. And Easter Sunday also, for those of you who have been buried under a rock for the last little while, marks the end of the 40-day period of fasting, prayer, and penance, and then is followed by a 50-day period called Eastertide, which ends with Pentecost Sunday. Now, as religious scientists, we have a very different approach to the Holy Week concept as promoted in most traditional religions. As a kid growing up Catholic, it was, and I kid you not, a terrifying time for me and my runaway imagination. I didn't understand a lot of the pain and persecution of Jesus and what happened and why anyone would do this to another person. And in asking for explanations of this through the nuns and through some of the priests, we were admonished not to be asking those kinds of questions. Well, quite frankly, I realize now that they probably really didn't know the answer either. So, of course, the idea that Jesus died for our sins was heavily promoted. And as a young person, I didn't understand what exactly I had done or what kind of sins I had committed that would contribute to the demise of this person called Jesus. But it sure served its purpose in keeping me in line. Certainly, at least from Lent on. From Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday, I remember always being afraid. We had to go to Mass every day during Lent while I was growing up. And I always had this underlying sense of gloom and doom. Something bad was going to happen. As a child, what do we know? We only know what the consciousness of the adults are that are around us. But each Sunday in church, momentum built and built. And even the vestments that the priests wore and the shrouds over some of the icons at the church were ominous to me. Why would we have to hide anything? That was always something I kept asking my parents. Why do they hide things like that? So you can imagine how refreshing it was for me to come to a religious science church for the first time on Easter Sunday and find out the metaphysical interpretation of everything that went on. Mind you, it took a few times for me to finally get rid of the fear and replace it with something more adult and possible as an allegory or myth or metaphor, rather than the actual abuse and killing of a man whose message was supposedly predicated on love. So years ago, I mentioned this on Friday night as well. Years ago, some of you people who have been around for a while might have heard of Dr. Leo Fishbeck. He was the religious science minister in Glendale, up on Chevy Chase Boulevard, and he created a play called The Impact of the Undying Christ. And in the play, Dr. Fishbeck contended that Jesus actually orchestrated his own death because his, as it said in the play, his disciples were more enamored with the man and not the message of Jesus. And of course, the undying Christ is the undying anointed one, or the Christ consciousness within each one of us. You know, there is something in each and every one of us, the Christ consciousness, that intrinsic spirit, that power and presence of God that will never die. That is the soul of who we are. And I love this play because Dr. Fishbeck believed that in order for Jesus to make his point, that he was not in fact the great exception as the disciples had come to worship, but that he was the great example. And Jesus had to create this scenario in order for him to be able to prove this. And one of the saddest parts of the story of the whole Easter week is the Last Supper. And the Last Supper is recorded in the Synoptic Gospels. It was both a Passover meal and the last meal that Jesus had with his apostles before his arrest and subsequent crucifixion. And one of the most important moments of the Last Supper is Jesus' command is to remember what he was about to do on behalf of mankind, is really what that was all about. Dr. Fishbeck seemed to be right in that Jesus knew he was going to die. And so the old idea that Jesus was the only one who could heal any one of their unbelief had to die in order for the new idea of their personal power to come forth and to be realized by all of them and to be realized by all mankind. Peter's denial, which to me seemed just so incongruent with the whole story because Peter was so close to Jesus, but Peter's denial was based partially on his own weakness, the weakness born of his human frailty. And after the Last Supper, Jesus took his disciples to the Garden of Gethsemane to await his arrest. He told them to stay awake and to pray while he went off to pray alone. And he returned to them and found them all sleeping. Well, Leo Fishbeck's position was this is just simply a metaphor in its proportion because sadly, some of us, when confronted with challenges in our lives, forget who we are. We forget, and we're asleep to our own power and to the power and presence of God in us. Jesus had warned Peter to stay awake and pray because although his spirit might be willing, his flesh was weak. But he fell asleep again, and by the time the soldiers had come to arrest Jesus, it was too late to pray for the strength to endure the ordeal that was on its way. Like many of us who perhaps don't stay prayed up, when push comes to shove in our lives and we don't have the strength to bear the burden of unforeseen tragic events, and we fall prey to the old belief that God is doing something to me, this is sort of the metaphor for this whole idea of Peter and his denial of Jesus. No doubt, Peter's failure to appropriate the only means to shore up his own weakness, which was prayer, occurred to him as he was weeping bitterly after his denials. But Peter learned his lesson, as we all do under those circumstances. You know, after the fact, we can always see where we could have done better, and sometimes we would have done better if we knew how to do better. But Peter exhorts us in Peter 5:8. he says, be on the alert, because your adversary, the devil, quote unquote, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. Now, Peter's weakness had caused him to be devoured, quote unquote, momentarily as he denied Jesus because he hadn't been prepared through prayer and he underestimated his own vulnerability. Now, you know, we're confronted here with the pink elephant in the middle of the room, right? Who killed Jesus? That's the big question. Different people hold differing views. Some are firm on the idea that the Jews were primarily responsible. And if you're of Jewish heritage, this could be problematic. However, others insist that the real culprit was Pontius Pilate. But you have to remember that Pontius Pilate gave several chances for Jesus to recant his position, so he wouldn't have to be the bad guy. Now, could one person have orchestrated the whole thing? That's questionable too. And some more traditional Christians believe and may argue vehemently that that Satan was the inspired one in the whole thing, and that Jesus, in fact, did die for our sins. As religious scientists, we would have to believe in an opposing force for this to be accurate, which we don't. We do not believe in any opposing force. And many traditional Christians would instead yell out, we did it. Our sins killed Jesus Christ. And this definitely would not work for most religious scientists because we don't believe in sin as a concept. It is an archery term which means missing the mark. And that's just what it is. Or as I have often said on Sunday morning, it's an acronym for self-inflicted nonsense. So, yes, there you go. You can applaud that one. Our opportunity in this idea of needing to find someone to blame, as we do periodically in certain circumstances and situations in our own life, you know, who's responsible for this, is to step back and look at why we feel we need to have someone to blame. That's the bigger question here. And finally, we come to the crucifixion and the subsequent resurrection. You know, the length of time that Jesus was actually in ministry, if you will, wandering around, was only 3 years. What an impact this one person made on the whole world out in humanity in such a short period of time. I mean, he had such celebrity and notoriety, and no one has inspired or conspired, if you will, to create such notoriety out of any of the other religious leaders. For much of the period of 3 years that Jesus spent in his ministry, gathering and teaching the disciples, he had been observed and criticized and harassed by scholars and priests. Because how was he qualified to do any of this? You know, where did he get his credentials? Well, apparently he had an inner wisdom, as most of us do when we finally realize who we are. And even though his teachings were sometimes perceived as heretical, and his actions in gathering a group of disciples were also perceived as possibly having political motivation, you know, these people made up all kinds of stuff about him, which was not true at all. Jesus' capture and trials were the culmination of this antipathy toward him. And as Dr. Sue pointed out on Wednesday night when she spoke here, that one day the crowds are chanting, Hosanna, 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 you know, celebrating and praising and lauding Jesus for the goodness that he brought into their lives. And then the next day, those same people who have been swayed in some way, shape, or form to have a change of heart are shouting, kill him, kill him, kill him. Again, it's a metaphor for the pairs of opposites we all experience on a day-to-day basis. It's a metaphor. Life is good one day. Life is bad the next day. I feel happy one day. I feel sad the next day. It's just a metaphor about the pairs of opposites. Now, in order to have the followers experience a new idea of their own power and presence of God, Jesus, as the old idea, the great exception, had to be crucified in order for the new idea of Jesus as the great example to be resurrected. The new idea spoke volumes about the turn of phrase in the Bible. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also, and the greater works than these he will do, as Reverend Michael shared in his creative thought. At the end, though, the message is clear. Each one of us has the capacity to heal ourselves of our unbelief. That's what we practice in this thing called the science of mind. It's for us to heal the separation that we feel between ourselves and God. And we can do greater works as the revelation of our own magnificence. Our lives, as I've said many times before, will either be a reflection of our unhealed past or our spiritual magnificence. And we are the ones who get to choose how that's going to play out in our lives. The Easter message, to my way of thinking, is one of possibility. It's one of great change and the beginning of a new life with God as the ever-present basis for a greater degree of livingness, as Ernest Holmes says in The Science of Mind. A greater degree of livingness from this day forward. Jim Rosemergy of the Unity tradition said, Easter is when it all begins to change. Planted in our souls is a new understanding of the nature of God. The call is to move from a God of sacrifice to the God of love. He said, the question today is, have we made that leap of faith and understanding? And what do we see from this new vantage point? What I see is that there is a deep longing in most people I talk to today to know their relationship to an idea greater than themselves, a power greater than themselves, to believe in an idea of peace and harmony, and to experience unconditional love in all areas of their lives. It's very simple. The Easter message boils down to one of love. Our job is to heal the sense of separation that we might feel and to know that with God, all things are possible. Will you join me in consciousness, please? And so today, of all days, the new beginning, from this day forward, life is possibility at its highest and best. And so today I recognize that pure essence of spirit that is within me, that I know is forever creating the life that I know that I choose today to experience, is that same power and presence that is within each and every person. I know today that there is something exciting, something forward-thinking, something truly awesome and wonderful awaiting my recognition of it. I know that from this moment on, I plant the seeds of the future. I simply know that the seeds have been planted and that soil, that creative medium that I have used in which to place those seeds, knows what it needs to do even before I know what it is that I desire to experience. And so I allow this creative process in my life to be the guideline for everything that I think, everything that I say, and everything that I do. From this moment on, there is nothing but possibility. And while it may appear as amazing on the surface, that it is my reality, that it is something that I know and accept for myself today, that I have chosen to be here on this plane of consciousness with the idea that what it is that I create goes forth before me as my consciousness, and that in all things, God is in the mix. And so I know today perfect health, perfect relationships, perfect prosperity in my life, and perfect creative expression. I know that in all these areas of my life, that I bring the best of who I am. I bring the highest of who I am, and my life unfolds perfectly. And from this place today in consciousness, I joyfully receive and give thanks to be here fully and completely, centered in spirit. As I release my word to the law takes it, and those seeds sprout in beautiful and glorious ways, as we say together, and so it is.
So I'm going to attempt another one. And before I begin, I'd like to just say a couple words, that a shout out and a dedication to this song to my youngest son, Jake, who has accepted the offer of Santa Cruz. So, and Mitch and I want to sing this for each and every one of you. Many nights we've prayed with no proof anyone could hear. In our hearts a hopeful song barely understood. Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will. You will when you believe.
In this time of fear, when prayer so often proves in vain, hope seems like the summer birds too swiftly flown away. Yet now I'm standing here, my heart so full I can't explain, seeking faith and speaking words I never thought I'd say.
There can be miracles when you believe.
When you believe.
Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve?
You can achieve
when you believe. Somehow you will. You will when you believe. They don't always happen when you ask.
And it's easy to give in to your fear. But when you're blinded by your pain, can't see your way clear through the rain,
A small but still resilient voice says help is very near. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill.
Who knows what miracles you can achieve? When you believe, somehow you will.
Now you will.
You will when you believe. You will when you believe.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful. Will the ushers come forward, please? We have wonderful people in service today. We have Paula and Karen. We have Dan. We have Hans. We have Connie. We have Rick. We have Amy on the cameras over here. We have Jose and Chris. And upstairs in the booth, we've got Marina and Thor and John. Would you please give them a wonderful, wonderful appreciation. So if you'll hold your gift in your hand, please. This is our time of conscious giving. It's a time when we contribute to the health and well-being, financial health and well-being of this center, knowing that this is a wonderful movement forward. So please repeat after me. Divine love consecrates my gift.
Divine love consecrates my gift.
It goes forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless.
It's forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless.
It is evidence of my conviction
It's evidence of my conviction
that God is the source and substance of my supply.
that God is the source and substance of my supply.
I joyously contribute to the vision of this center,
I joyously contribute to the vision of this center,
knowing that it returns to me multiplied abundantly.
knowing that it returns to me multiplied abundantly.
And so it is.
So it is. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer.
So we have wonderful things going on at our center, and I'm going to go through the announcements as quickly as I can today. The Divine Dining auction starts today. If you were downstairs before the service, you would have noticed that all the bidding sheets are out. And if you want to get in on any of these particular events, please go downstairs after the service and have a look over the 20 dinners that you get to choose for, over 20 that you get to choose from. And what a nice graphic somebody did. How great is that? That's beautiful. That's wonderful. So it's about the food here sometimes, isn't it? This week, Kim Stanwood Terranova on Wednesday night, she's going to be talking about relationships. So we can all use a little more help in that arena as well. The movie Femme, Saturday, April 26th, Reverend Sandra will be out in the foyer taking tickets for that event. I guess the producer, the director is going to be here. The women's group meets next Sunday night at 6:30 downstairs. If you haven't ever participated in one of these women's groups, they're just a wonderful opportunity to really get to know people at the center better. And the men's group is the same way. I think it's just wonderful that we have these small groups that people can participate in. And then Mother's Day, celebrating the mother, a Sacred Mother's Day event. Jason, who is participating in this, and his wife Heather were part of the Jesus Christ Superstar event on Friday night. And they are both incredible musicians and really, really wonderful, wonderful people. So that's going to be a wonderful event. We have some children here today. Wonderful children. Dylan, come on up. Come on up, kids, so we can see what you did today. Hi, Dylan. How are you today?
Good.
And you did what today?
We made bread baked bunnies.
Bread baked bunnies. Oh, how cute. How cute. Are they edible?
Yes.
I mean, you can eat them? Yes?
No, you cannot eat them.
Oh, you cannot eat them. Okay, they're just for decoration?
Yes.
And Quinn, you made one too, yes? Oh, my goodness, now if
We
you
all
go,
made them.
if you go and plant those outside, do they grow more bunnies?
I don't know.
I
No,
don't-
they do not.
You're gonna, okay.
Because they're not real.
They're not real.
They're
Okay.
bread baked.
Okay, good. And Quinny, you're up here today.
They don't work to grow more bunnies because they are pretend and they won't work to grow more bunnies.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
The best thing about Easter is God.
Bella, you got it. Good. How wonderful. How wonderful. These are our children. And who was down with the children today? Jeannie and Becky? Excellent. Thank you. And I know we have teens down there too today. So today, when the conductor of an orchestra comes to the podium and he waits patiently while the various woodwinds and horns and string instruments tune, there is what most people perceive as noise. But to me, it like makes the hair on my arm stand on end because I know the tuning is the beginning of something new and different. It's always, to me, exciting when I hear the tuning. And I know that something wonderful is going to be played. All of a sudden, barely audible to anyone in the audience, people having conversations while the tuning is going on, and you would think it couldn't be heard over the din of the noise of the musicians. It comes this little tap, tap, tap on the podium. And in that moment, there is absolute silence, that the people who have been tuning are aware now that it's about to begin. And what I wonder sometimes is how did they hear it? Through the din of the tuning and the noise of the conversations in the audience. The fact is that they've been waiting for the tap, tap, tap. And they were waiting for the signal from the conductor that the event was about to start, so they're primed and ready to play. In the same way sometimes that we're waiting to hear the call of where to go next, what to do next, and with whom to share our grand adventure. Sometimes we don't listen to the call, but sometimes we do listen. And when it is divinely guided and directed by a pull to be somewhere else, to do something different from what we currently know, that pull is so strong that it forces us to leave the comfort of where we are. And that kind of pull, I think, is what's calling Reverend Michael to go to Capistrano Valley to be with my friend, Dr. Heather Clark. And so, Michael, for today, if all the board members who are present will come up this morning, please. I know many of you are on vacation, but board members, or maybe you're on vacation right now, too. But they're out of town right now. Come forward and be with me here right now as I present this gift to Reverend Michael as a token of our appreciation for everything that you do for us, everything that you have done for us, and everything that you are yet to do as an example of what it is to be in service to the center. And when you open this gift, you will understand the motivation behind it and the thought behind it, because it is a key, and it represents the key to our hearts, and a key that you will forever have that will open any door that needs to be opened by anyone in this center whose life you have touched. We love you, Michael DeFebo, and we bless your grand voyage and know that you are going to do great and wonderful things wherever you go.
You'd have to wait for me to die to get this microphone out of my cold, dead hand. Always called to serve, and so it's now closing treatment.
Yes, invite the practitioners,
Practitioners,
to join us.
please join us. Board stay. Practitioners, if you would join me, join us. And just know that we have arisen beyond where we started this very morning. You've already begun the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to close you out. And also, those envelopes, I want you all to know that I painstakingly placed the label in an exact order. Every one is exactly the same on every center, and I did a treatment on every one of those envelopes personally. So,
One last thing. In honor of Reverend Michael, you know, usually you get a cake and it says bon voyage or a goodbye or whatever. But Reverend Michael isn't quite attuned to cake, as most people, so in his honor we have pie.
oh, I
His
like
favorite
pie.
thing.
My
So
favorite
there's
word.
pie for everyone
Yay.
downstairs. So
Let them
please
eat
join
pie.
us downstairs for fellowship.
Okay, so let's go within. And it's in this celebration, it's in this recognition, it's in this awareness that I know, and I know that I know, that I am one with that energy of spirit. I am one with that power. I am one with love. And I recall and rejoice and remember in all things at all times that I tap into that awareness inwardly, for it truly begins inwardly. And as it begins inwardly, outwardly, through my expression, through my fingers and my toes, that celebration. And at any moment, I declare, I decree, and I choose to be that. To be that. And that is what I choose to be today and forevermore. And so I am grateful. I am reborn, and I am awake. And so knowing that, I simply allow that. I simply allow it to be and to be. And so knowing that, we declare that, law has taken that, and it is done. It is complete, as I believe. The miracles are all here, all now. And so in this group consciousness, in this collective affirmation, we affirm collectively. And so it is. Amen.